Welcome back to the show, everybody. As they so fittingly say in literature and many love songs, all good things must come to an end. And we have really enjoyed bringing you candidate conversations throughout the Decision 22 election season. We have been talking to each and every one of the candidates who want to serve you as senators. There are only 15 spots available in the November 8th general election, of course, but we have two of our very best, two wonderful, lovely local ladies who have committed basically their life's work. This has become their career at this point, to serving, to creating policy, to defending that policy, and to representing you down at the Guam legislature. So I have with me for the last episode of Candidate Conversations, and I am proud to be joined on the KUM couch by none other than the Speaker of the 36, the Honorable Therese Terlaje. Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Good morning, Jason. Thank you so much.
All right, and you probably saw during the commercial break we did like the whole hand pound. It was actually Senator Telo Taitague's idea. We're like team last.
Yeah, team last.
I know we're not saying that about how you'll finish in the election, but we're saying last episode.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, good morning to you and to the KUM staff and to the people of Guam.
And you literally just came back to the island yesterday, so
Yes.
Hopefully the jet lag is not going to going to affect your questions here because you're always sharp. But let me ask you, Senator.
Yeah.
You're coming from Tamuning, right, to come up here?
Yes.
How was the traffic going over there? Because the flooding is crazy today.
Well, I think everyone's taking the precautions and kind of eliminating their drive time today because of the flooding. So it was pretty smooth, but I didn't come into any real floods. I'm only from Tamuning to Dedido, so it was good. It was smooth. But I'm glad people are not, deciding to stay home or not drive. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, the Speaker had no choice because she's got, in addition to the show, a whole bunch of other things, and you had to go through Pago Bay.
Right, so we had two choices this morning, unfortunately. Woke up to the chat saying you can go through Palantat, which is flooded, or you're going to go through Pago Bay, which is also flooded. People were turning around. There was a huge delay. Traffic was backed up all the way from Pago Bay to the St. Francis Church at one point. So it was pretty challenging, and of course, it reminds us every day, right, when we face this type of thing, that we have these long-standing flooding areas that have not been resolved yet, and we have to get to those. And we've been trying to work with Army Corps, DPW, and those agencies to solve this flooding. And because they're, I had a staff member once who was trapped in her car in a flooded area on Palantat. And,
that's scary. That's very
it's very scary. And so, these are life or death situations. The people who try to clear their own rivers down, for example, at the Barcina subdivision in Maritzo, they get in there to remove the bamboo and the other plants so that the water will flow through as opposed to flooding up to their homes. And that's life or death.
And then, of course, you've got the river on the other side, which when the waters rise and everything,
then you've
got that.
So the rivers are flooding.
And Senator Telo knows this because your father, Senator, was my landlord for 11 years, and I lived in Tumon. And even Tumon, everybody thinks it's this, pristine, wonderful place for the tourists, but I mean, Tumon floods all the time.
All the time, and not just that. We're looking at areas in Tamuning where the manholes actually have come up from the ground. People driving on the road, and then next thing you know, a manhole comes flying up, from all the water spilling out. Tumon, I think the biggest issue in Tumon was when they built the sandcastle there, they were required to put a ponding basin right directly in the front to cover some of that. So I remember a while back I had sent a video during a storm to show what happens when the water fills up in the back of sandcastle and how they're pumping it out to the street.
Yeah.
And that is a major issue in causing the flood and major safety issues. So
anybody living on Fujita Road, if it really starts raining heavily and everything like that, you basically can't get out. So.
Yep. So I brought it to EPA's concern and had them address it many years ago. So that, you see that rubber hose that is coming out from the back of sandcastle pumping out. I hope it's not doing it anymore.
Well, ladies, this is a perfect segue into my first question for you, because the one thing that I've admired about each of you as policymakers is your continuity. And both of you have told me, on the air and privately, sink or swim, I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to do what I have to do for the people. So you say what you mean and you mean what you say, both of you, right? And that's very admirable. Now, I would assume, based on that you each would like to continue the good work that you're doing with the committees that you're on. Of course, like Speaker, you oversee, among other things, health, justice, culture, and Senator, you're a part of that committee as well for health. Yeah. So we'll start with Speaker Terlaje. What does it mean to you in these very trying times, especially over the last 2 years, to serve on that committee? And just for honks and giggles, if you could serve on any other committee in the next legislature, is there another one that you would want to consider?
I actually hope, if I am reelected, to keep the committee on land. I want to keep the committee on health, but for sure land. Land is really the one. I think we are in a trying time, very important period for the people of Guam. And I think the affordable housing issue has just skyrocketed. It is making people leave Guam, our families, and I don't want that. That's one of the reasons I ran. And so I intend to continue to work on, you know, bringing in infrastructure to areas, dealing with land issues that prevent housing from being built and residences. And so I would like to continue that work. Of course, healthcare, there are so many important issues and that have been exacerbated by the pandemic. They were there, but they were really exacerbated by this pandemic. They were open in their full glory for everyone to see, and we've got to address those. So I do hope to continue to work on healthcare issues, including access to healthcare. That's really the biggest thing.
Very
People
well.
like Senator going off island for cancer care, I think we can do better here.
Yeah, and it's in so many markets, and we'll go now to the senator, is they always say that Ways and Means is the most stressful committee because, you know, you're dealing with huge sums of money and, you know, people's livelihoods, you know, like on the line and everything. But again, the speaker's committee on which you sit, dealing with healthcare and even, you know, given your own personal connection to that, very, very trying. And that's a very stressful committee. So do you wish to sit on that again?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'd like to thank the Speaker for allowing me to be the chairperson on the subcommittee of medical malpractice. Yep. So we've been working on that together in the 35th and the 36th.
Speaking of trying times.
Yeah, very trying times. But, you know, I think I would like to do Ways and Means. I really would. I think Ways and Means would probably be an area that I'm well versed on when it comes to, you know, funding. I'm the numbers person. I think that transparency and accountability is first and foremost to the people. I don't, as everyone knows, that every month I look at the ARP funding and finding out where this money is being spent. Unfortunately, in the last budget bill, what we should have put in the FY22 budget bill was itemizing and having more information with regards to where the money is being spent. And that's one of the biggest issues. So I would like Ways and Means, you know, OFB, to oversee that committee if we were to get a majority.
Well, that's another perfect segue. And of course, you know, your colleague right now, Senator Joe Sonagsimi, has been doing a very good job of that for years. But I had three of your GOP colleagues, and we'll go to the speaker for this to start this off. Of course, Joanne Brown, Chris Duenas, and Jesse Lujan were here last week, and they were talking, and they really hammered home the need for a greater sense of accountability, transparency, and budgeting for the next legislature, whoever that 15-member body may be. Do you, party allegiances aside and everything, do you agree with that assessment, and would you add to it, or do you think, you know, things are going all right as they are right now?
Well, I think that's the legislature's job. So, of course, that's always the job, I think, and we can always do better. But I do think that we have done significant, we've made significant improvements in transparency, in demanding transparency, in ensuring that agencies have transparency. For example, my committee has had oversight hearings, public hearings, and where we have invited many people on Guam, I mean, all the people of Guam really, to come in and give their take on what the solution should be. And pretty much, you know, good or bad. I welcome that. And I think that's really part of it. It's like, if we need to be interactive with the people of Guam, we do not have all the solutions. But so yeah, so transparency and accountability, absolutely. I've had oversights over these agencies. I have no qualms doing that when it's necessary. Finances, absolutely, we can be better. I think that's like I said, that's our job at the legislatures, to make sure that we know the finances. If we know the finances, if the people of Guam know the finances, we're not going to find all these things years from now, you know, bad deals, you know, corruption, all of that.
Inaccurate numbers.
Correct.
And what have you.
Yeah, and we can put it where it's needed, prioritize correctly if we see all the information correctly.
And as far as transparency, I believe, because you are the speaker, it was also your call that right in the middle of the pandemic to make more of the public hearings and the community feedback sessions available on things like Zoom. So when we were still locked down, or when people could not attend for whatever reason.
Absolutely, and we've continued that after the shutdowns, right? We've continued to allow virtual hearings for, in some cases, to allow accessibility for all.
Indeed. Thank you, Speaker. All right, Senator Taitague, of course, your colleagues, and I know every member of the Republican Party, you guys stand united, saying they want to bring back a Republican majority for what would be the first time in 14 years. So accountability, transparency, and budgeting. Is there anything else you could add to that?
Well, I think it's the checks and balances. Excuse me, the checks and balances are very important in government, and the legislature should be able to provide this type of, a process, not being persuaded by the administration. And a lot of times we tend to see that in the legislature, and it doesn't bring that most important check and balances that's needed. I think we have to allow the transparency and accountability in the forefront of everything we do. We answer to the people. They're our bosses. And many of the senators forget that they are our bosses. I think the virtual hearings that we've been having, and I thank Speaker for having all those roundtables and oversight hearings, but unfortunately she's only one. We've rarely had oversight hearings on certain agencies that were really needed. And I think it's time to call out individual senators who lost the people's trust in that. Mm-hmm. And so I want to push for that area. I've been one person who's never been afraid to speak my mind.
I was going to say, you have called out, your colleagues.
I have.
Justifiably so. And, you're not just sniping or nitpicking and everything. Like you said, I want to hold people accountable.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I will continue to do that. And I think the people of Guam want someone like that. And I think I've proven myself to be that person.
All right, very well done. Okay, final question before we go to the first commercial break. Ladies, you both had substantial leadership positions over your political careers, and you have both sat on significant committees. I'd like to know, how has that changed in positive ways or otherwise? Not so much Speaker Therese Terlaje and Senator Telo Taitague, but how has that changed, the characteristic, the nature of being a Chamorro woman of Therese and Telo? Having been in those positions with making decisions and having to think about the things that you've thought of over the years. Speaker, you first.
Sure. First, can I just say, being in the legislature has not been a career. It was never a career ambition of mine. Okay. So that it's just, I came to this after 27 years of being a lawyer in private practice, after teaching at the University of Guam, and many other things. So I brought all my experience to the legislature, trying to resolve long-standing issues that have not been resolved for Guam. I was tired of hearing it and complaining about it, and I wanted to be part of the solution. So I think, I would say the biggest thing that has changed is really, everything's broadcast now live. They can see what's going on at the time that it's happening. Social media changes it because we have additional forums to talk about our opinions, and not only that, to hear all the other opinions that are going on in the community. That was not possible before, except on a one-to-one basis out, in these events.
And people get brave on Zoom.
Oh, very brave.
I'm preaching to the choir here. You ladies know better than I do.
Like I said, so we, I think, are taking a lot of criticism and a lot of critique, which is fine, but it's tough. And so I don't think it's easy by any means, and you have to have a commitment that you're there to serve the people of Guam. You're going to do what it takes, and you're going to focus, and you've got to focus. You can't get distracted by naysayers necessarily. You can't get distracted by people. Sometimes we get into these personal things, and I think that's a temptation with social media, but I think if we just stay professional, keep everything professional, that we will succeed. Oh,
well done. Okay, Senator Taitague, how has this changed Telo? Because you, as I was saying, you don't go looking for fights, you don't pick fights, but you've been involved in them.
Yeah, well,
that's part of the game.
Well, I'm not one to, walk away when I see something that's wrong or somebody doing something wrong. I've been one to, I've always said that don't turn a blind eye. It's the public needs to also be part of that solution of our issues here on Guam. And by turning a blind eye, nothing can get resolved. We have to at least call somebody, call the legislature, call one of our offices and tell us what they're seeing, and so that we can bring this up if they're too afraid to do it. But it begins first with the community's involvement. And may I say, Speaker, to have a more hybrid public hearing is also an area I'm hoping that we can continue on virtual hearings, because many people, it's difficult for them to leave their home. Gas is so expensive, but I'm finding out during the pandemic, there were more people attending meetings than ever before because of the ability to go online. So I'm hoping that as we go into the 37th, or even from now today moving on, that we can have some kind of hybrid. I think we're going to get more participation with the community. As far as experience is concerned, I come from humble beginnings. I'm a grassroots individual. I ran 2 businesses. I've worked, I went to school as a paralegal. To become a paralegal, I've worked in many different areas, and one of them was the director of the Women's Bureau. So definitely seeing the glass ceiling being broken.
All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies. Certainly your leadership has been very much appreciated throughout the history of Guam. So God bless the legislature, God bless Guam, and God bless Zoom, I guess.
Zoom.
That has been a great thing for our island. All right, stay tuned, because when we come back, you will pose your video questions to the Speaker and the Senator when we return on the Hotspot. It's time for the last episode of Canada Conversations, and now we are getting into your video questions, and we will go to the video for Speaker Therese Terlaje and Senator Telo Taitague. Our first question comes to us from Jen.
Hi, my name is Jen Surratt, and senators and prospective senators, what are you going to do to address the horrendous dog situation on the island?
All right, Speaker, we'll start with you. And now I know you probably heard, both of you ladies, about some of your colleagues, Senator Pito Terlaje and Senator Joe St. Augustine were here a couple weeks ago. They were alluding to the fact that, we can try our best with spaying and neutering, or, sending stray dogs, get them fostered, send them off island. But they also indicated that euthanasia is also a option that they are highly considering, and that raised a few hairs on the back of many a Guamanian, and I'm sure most of the dogs. So, Speaker, we'll start with you. Not making light of this at all. So, what will you do to help the stray dog situation?
Okay, well, I think that the government has, since I've been in the legislature, I have seen them put more resources towards GAIN, towards the mayors for this particular problem, this stray dog problem. It's a health issue, and so.
And of course, you oversee health.
That's correct. And so they have been making strides in, in this, the collection of the dogs, getting them up to GAIN. The problem is they continue to run out of storage. It's like there's never enough room. And so the mayors can do all their efforts, and then they get stuck because there's no more room, right? And then, so that's really, everybody knows that's what we've got to do. We've got to increase the capacity of GAIN to handle these dogs until they can find them homes or do those other programs that they are trying to do. And the other one is the government recently partnered with the Taiwan Economic Office here to bring in veterinarians to spay and neuter the dogs and to continue those programs throughout the community. So they've been out in the community doing that. And all the professionals say that is the way to resolve the growing number of stray dogs.
Sure, the most professional and certainly the most humane solution, many people would believe. Senator Taitague, I remember we were first bringing this issue up when Mayor's Council of Guam President Mayor Jesse Allig was saying they finally quantified and said there are 60,000 such stray dogs roaming the island. So what are your thoughts on curtailing, bad choice of words, curtailing the stray animal problem?
Well, it is definitely an issue and a safety issue. I agree with everything that the Speaker had mentioned. In fact, she and I had attended a function together to meet with the Taiwan group that came, some of the veterinarians that came out there. They also hooked up with the University of Guam, some people there. We're talking about how, this partnership between Guam and Asia. My greatest concern too is you have a lot of these stray dogs who are hurt in some way. You can see them in lots of pain. And how are we going to address that? I think there's not enough veterinarians on this island that can do pro bono work to help these animals recover. But I think the partnership that we're having with other countries coming into Guam is going to help. We've done everything. I've attended Department of Agriculture when we discussed how they're going to capture these stray dogs from the process and where it's going to go. I mean, GAIN doesn't have enough room in their facilities to be able to house many of these dogs. And of course, spade and neutering is so important. We've made great strides toward providing funding for that. And I think the community can come out too to think about maybe adopting some of these animals.
True. I know, and I appreciate how the Speaker brought up that this is, I think, unquestionably a health problem and one that needs a health-oriented solution. Many people have also brought up that this may be, even though they're a member of a different species in the animal kingdom, this should be considered as a humanitarian problem. So, I mean, that's certainly a question that has yet to be answered definitively, obviously. Next question comes to us from Enzo, video question.
My name is Enzo and I work here at the Compadres. So everywhere you go, there's a lot of homeless people, like everywhere you go. So what is your plan about them? How can you like take care of them, and how can you make sure that they can survive here on island, especially like, you know, the lifestyle nowadays, or the what you call it, the cost of living nowadays? They cannot afford themselves to you know, to survive. So what are you gonna do about it?
All right, Enzo, thank you very much for that. Madam Speaker, we're getting to the point in terms of, you know, the tempo of this issue where there's almost a person asking for handouts, someone indicating that they are homeless almost on every street corner when you go to like the major parts of the island. So I know this is something that, you know, you've had on your mind for a while.
Yes. Again, there are several different, I guess, areas that contribute to homelessness, right? And so we've got to attack all of them. That's the issue, is that there are many, right? There's not just one solution. You know, I think the setting up a homeless office at the governor's office is a good move. And I think if they can be consistent in providing the housing and the wraparound services from all the government agencies, that if that can be provided on a consistent basis, then that is good. That's a huge help. I think we need, you know, of course, mental health is an issue in some of these, and our mental health resources. We've put a lot of money into mental health, particularly drug addiction treatment programs. And so I think that those resources are there. Some resources we still lack, right? For example, professional psychiatrists on Guam. But when it comes to drug treatment, we should have those programs have expanded, and those are available. The other issues are just, yeah, it's really a poverty, it's an employment, and it's an affordable housing issue. And so I have tried to tackle these in all of my different committee works. How are we going to get affordable housing? Yeah, and how do we keep consistent, you know, support small businesses to keep employment opportunities? It's
interesting to draw the parallels between the previous question about the stray dog population and now the human homeless population, because they are two communities that are, in many cases, Senator Taitague, exceeding the solutions that have been, and the resources that have been provided for them.
Definitely in need, you know, these two areas.
Yes.
But with the homeless, as we're seeing, as inflation grows, we're going to start seeing even more coming up. The price of food, of course, housing that the speakers mentioned, and I'm preparing a bill to be introduced to address some of those issues with the with affordable housing. We know that housing increase has brought us to where we are today, with more people not being able to afford rent. The military is a contender to that, you know, making it very difficult as well. But I think we need to focus on building our inventory on the island of homes. The more inventory we have, the less cost it'll go down as far as cost for homes. So we need to build an inventory of homes on this island. As I mentioned, one bill that I'm looking at introducing to provide also first-time homeowners funding for the upfront payment to get a home. We need to look at condominiums, apartment buildings, you know, to provide assistance in an area that is strictly for the local community, you know, to find some way that military cannot be utilizing these certain facilities, yet the landlords are able to get some tax rebates, you know, by providing a facility for our local people here on Guam to,
and also the real estate market would be, some may consider, like in flux right now, given the fact that there is a national and by association a local recession.
Absolutely, and we can provide that assistance to the landlords who are looking for that, you know, to give that kind of service and help.
Very well, very well stated, Senator. All right, last question comes to us from Evelyn.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Dueñas, and I am an individual with disability who lives on Guam for many years, all through my childhood. My question for the candidates is, when will we have services reliable for individuals with disabilities, needing personal assistance services, and reliable, comfortable, safe transportation run 7 days a week, including Sundays and holidays.
All right, thank you, Ms. Evelyn, for that question. Speaker, of course, very, very sensitive subject here, but making sure that we can provide a plethora of resources for our beloved people with disabilities but specifically to Evelyn's question, when it comes to transportation, how can we make sure that they have an adequate supply?
Can I first just thank Evelyn? Evelyn's been an advocate since I've been counsel to the legislature, which was 30 years ago, 20 years ago. She's been a consistent advocate. She even served on that transportation board. And yes, so she has made the issues of people with disabilities known, and she's even made the solutions known. So I want to thank her for all her work. She makes the effort to come down to our office to see us. She has to take public transportation. So that's a big thing. You know, you got to wait for it, and it's not convenient at all. So I agree, we need to improve those services. I think Guam is at a critical time. We have federal funds, right? We've got infrastructure funds and we've got ARP funds that are supposed to help us with this critical infrastructure. So we don't have to say the same thing, you know, same old, same old. We're supposed to make huge changes when it comes to transportation and for transportation people with disabilities. Those huge changes are supposed to be happening now with this infrastructure bill and the infrastructure money that has come to Guam. So I hope to continue to focus on where is that money being spent and how is it, when, you know, how soon is it going to be implemented, these programs. They've outlined some really nice programs, you know, the energy cars, the electric cars,
the EVs,
and yeah,
that's right,
that's what
they said the entire fleet will be electric at some point.
So Congress was pushing that and, you know, setting up the stations and the infrastructure necessary for that on Guam. But really what it takes is focused management at this transportation system, right? They have to focus. They've had some changes in the management, so I think that disrupted it for a little while, and over the years it's, you know, changed. Certainly. So I think we just need a focused, consistent leadership there, and prioritizing these people with disabilities, making sure that their service is as convenient as possible.
All right, Senator Taitague, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when we had, you know, Wave a Ride and E-Bus, like those heady days of the 80s and everything like that. And unfortunately, we've gone away from that. But to make sure that we take care of the segment of our community who are people with disabilities, I mean, that is something we have to prioritize, I would say.
Absolutely, not just in transportation, but in everything that we do. In fact, when I brought up about the Zoom at public hearings, many of them can't make it down to the public hearings. So this is an opportunity for those with disabilities to participate in public hearings, you know, that are not able to come down. So every aspect of the word of what we do, we have to consider those with disabilities and how we can make their life, give them the same quality of life that we all enjoy as well. The infrastructure bill that the speaker brought up, that's $11 million, almost $2 million a year for the next 5 years that the federal government has put aside for us to address this. I know that the roads, we have money for roads, about $95 million in public roads. And as we addressed some of the repairs on our federal roads, that we have to consider stops, not just the straight road, but the ability for a bus to come into a cul-de-sac and pick up individually safely. I mean, you've seen some of you see some of these bus stops, they're right on the side of the road. I mean,
I never thought about that, but most buses could not fit in like a League One Terrace court or a cul-de-sac, you know, like it was.
So they need to, when they go into preparing the roads, they have to keep in mind people with disabilities, and we will all have to do our part, because one day, you know, we're going to get to a point we might not have a disability at a young age, but as we get older, we may be having a disability. And I don't know if I told you, but within by 2034, there will be more seniors over the age of 65 than there are children in the US, in Japan, and it'll happen in Guam too as well. So we have to prepare ourselves for that as well.
Interesting. Thank you for that statistic also, Senator.
Thank you.
Really interesting. All right. Really, really interesting insights on some very pressing island issues. But when we come back for this lightning fast commercial break, we have our lightning round, and we will find out the lighter side of Therese and Telo, if I may, when we come back. All right, I told you it was fast. Blink if you miss it. It was a lightning commercial break, and now it's time for a lightning round. So we'll start with the speaker. Speaker. No, these are easy. And
Okay.
we know you like to have fun. You're a proud Guamanian.
Oh, yes.
So speaker, when you're at a fiesta,
Yes.
what are Speaker Therese Terlaje's must-have items on your fiesta plate?
I always look for Kelligwin.
Okay, what kind of Kelligwin?
Kelligwin.
Kelligwin deer.
Ideally shrimp.
Okay.
But I look for all of them. I like any kind.
Okay. Do you go for the super pica Kelligwin? You like to have like the seed as well, or?
Not super pica, but like I said, I like Kelligwin, so I'll try all of it. Any kind, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, and tell you what, for purposes of this discussion, you also get like the big Dixie plate with like the 3 compartments, so you can separate.
Of course,
you know.
that would be ideal.
There you
But
go.
No, of course, I like. Everyone who knows me very well knows I like almost any kind of food. I'm not picky at all, and I love like Pica. I love Kelligwin. I love anything.
Oh, you've just expanded the Dixie
Yes,
plate then.
yeah,
Okay.
Dixie.
You know,
That's why you have to go for round 2. All right.
Agansuni, yeah, everything. I love Chamorro food, and I love food.
Okay, it's almost 12 o'clock, so I know we're heading towards lunchtime. So,
I love that.
Senator Telo Taitague, what is Telo's must-have on your fiesta plate?
I love how you say the Dixie plate, expanding the Dixie plate.
Not the cheap styrofoam one. We're talking about like the one that can hold some, fried chicken.
Oh, yeah,
and, the marble.
basic. Well, every time I go to a fiesta, I make sure I look for the eggplant and coconut milk. That's one of my favorites. Everywhere I go, I always try, and there are different tastes, to eggplant and coconut milk.
I hope you're not driving. I hope somebody's driving you, because you're going to take a nap on the way back.
Oh, I love that. That's my go-to.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, you guys are making me hungry. All right. Question number 2, Madam Speaker. What was the last movie that you cried at? Or 2?
Boy,
Let me get my prepositions
I
right.
don't know about the last, but I remember a television show I cried at.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you really quickly.
We like TV here at KUN.
You ever watch this show, Madam Secretary?
Yeah.
So I started to get into it, binge watched it, but there was one episode where it was like the island of Nauru was facing a super typhoon. So she was trying to get them to be evacuated. But they showed a scene there.
That hits home.
Yeah, so they showed a scene there. Everyone was going to die if they stayed on this island. But they showed a scene where they would not get onto the evacuation boat or whatever it was, the plane, and the scene was, so these older people and younger people, the whole community was in this very sacred area. For me, it made me think of like our Lati sites. They were there, and they said, we can't leave this sacred area.
You're wearing the Lati right now. I can see how much this means to you.
Yeah, so they said that we could not leave this sacred area. And I cried at that point, because that felt so real to me, right? Like, climate change is forcing people out of their islands and their homes, and things are forcing our families out of our homes here. Yeah. So I really felt that. And at the end of the scene, it was, they did get evacuated. They took parts of those like historic items, and they took it with them. It's not the same.
You need some tissue, Madam Speaker?
Yeah, no.
Here's the script.
I'm just saying, you asked.
This 8.5 by 11 paper works.
I don't cry a lot in movies, but yeah,
no, that's
really
interesting.
got me,
And of course, one of the things that you oversee is culture, so I can see how you would empathize and you would sympathize with that as well.
Much
Thank you. Wow.
Oh man.
Senator, you have to top that.
I'm already crying listening to. I'm a big crybaby. Seriously, people think I'm such a toughie, but oh my God, I cry on commercials.
Okay.
I mean, sad commercials coming on, I cry on. I think I just saw something about a couple who was stranded on a sandbar. Their plane crashed on the sandbar, and the water was coming, and they were saying goodbye to each other. I mean, that it had me already in tears. But and going through my trials and tribulations in my life, every time I see someone who's sick, and they're on the hospital bed, even before they speak, I start crying. So I'm a big crybaby. So.
That was good. I thought for some reason I thought both of you were going to say like The Notebook, but what you just said was way better.
I'm going to cry that too.
You're a bird. I'm a bird too. All right.
Ask us our favorite lines.
I was hoping you asked for dessert.
Okay,
Seriously.
Maybe we'll get to that. Okay.
Okay.
Question number 3 is, Madam Speaker, what is a hobby of yours?
Oh, hobby. Everyone, again, my hobbies have changed over, the years.
Eating and crying, we know that so
yeah,
far.
but no, one of my big hobbies right now is snorkeling. I can't get enough of it. I like to go everywhere and anywhere where there's different, things to see. And every day the water's different. So I love it. I love the different conditions of the water. I love the different, I can go to Tagacheng every single day. And
I knew you were going to say Tagacheng because you're from Jonia.
Yes, of course.
Jonia rules.
And Tagacheng, I have to put in a plug. I just think it should be marketed as the most beautiful sunrise in the universe. It is so beautiful.
I'll sign off on that. I second that.
It is. And so it really inspires me every day. It's just beautiful. It's different, but I like snorkeling and I like hiking because I like to go see all the different parts of places on Guam that I haven't seen.
All right.
Those are really my hobbies for real.
Okay, shout out to Tagacheng, all of our friends.
Yes.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to name drop. Very well done. All right, Senator, what is it? Okay, of course, you are a very, very successful professional musician, a lounge singer, and a very, very good one. So what else does Telo do?
Well, like the speaker said, times change and your likes and dislikes change. So, yeah, it's kind of different. I mean, that I like doing as a hobby now. I mean, I read all the time with regards to any kind of rules and regs that are coming out, this new hospital medical campus, having to read that. I mean, is Netflix a hobby? It should be.
It's also an addiction by some people's definition.
I enjoy catching up because I just got introduced to Netflix probably about 4 months ago. I've been behind. I haven't had it.
Oh, you got a lot to catch up on.
I am catching up on many programs and just also documentaries. I enjoy looking at that. So I guess my hobby is just surfing the web, and that's what I'm doing now.
Hey, I'm a tech guy, so I'm all about that.
I love surfing the web. Yeah.
Okay, for our last question, we are going to go to question number 5. So the last question will start with the speaker. If you could travel anywhere in the world, if I could just give you a ticket right now, United, Therese Terlaje, first class, even the one you can you can recline all the way back. Where would you go?
Oh my. The only, I never dream of traveling much, I guess. I did always want to see all the islands of the Marianas. I want to see them. I want to go to Pagan. My daughter went to Pagan.
Oh, nice.
It changed her life. I think she always wanted to do that. She went there, and I want to go, and I want to see that too. So. But anywhere really, I'm curious. I'm naturally curious. I like to see different places, cultures, anything. But I love my home, and so I just want to
why would you want to travel anywhere when you're snorkeling at Tagacheng?
Right. So I want to just learn more about there's a Lati site. There are Lati sites at Pagan, and isn't that and I'd like to see those. It was very nice. Yes.
Good answer. All right. Well, very well done, Madam Speaker. All right, Senator, your final question: if you could travel anywhere in the world, I know you were very well traveled already, but where have you not gone?
Oh gosh, where have not gone? One of the places I would like to see is Portugal. I heard that Portugal has a good sustainable type of living. It's very senior friendly. Healthcare is good there. Yep. Cost of living is really good there. So I'd like to visit there and see something that is working well for that community. I've heard great things, but Pagan, I would love to go to Pagan. I mean, because that's very difficult to get to. These other countries we can just hop on a plane and go to, but Pagan, it's a little bit different. There's no flights that go into there. You would have to take a long boat ride. I get seasick, but I'm willing to take a Dramamine pill and go for it. But yeah, Pagan would be an amazing place to go to. Nice. I have several places, but those are the two probably I'd like to see.
Well, we have known for many, many years that Speaker Therese Terlaje and Senator Telo Taitague, that you are women of many, many talents, of many interests, and of many passions, and certainly the passion for policy making and serving our great island is something that you have, both of you, has unwavered in both of you. So we thank you for your time here with me. We congratulate you on being the very last episode of Canada Conversations, and we wish you the best of luck. Okay. Team
last one.
Last one. And tell you what, because the speaker got us all super hungry about Kelligwin, so we're gonna go find some Kelligwin. It's 12:02, and we will see you tomorrow on the Hotspot. Take care, everybody. Please stay dry.
Bye.
Take care out there.
Thank you. Be safe.